All right. Welcome everybody to the show today. Today we have on a special guest, Mr. Cesar Sosa. Go ahead and
Skeezy
tell him what
Soze.
the Skeezy Sosa. So today we're gonna go over some paranormal stories, but specifically about what Caesar went through being in the military. Specifically, one story. We might get into a couple more and see if I can pull them out of them. But um,
Well,
I'm
this
gonna go
one's
ahead.
pretty pretty laid out, I guess, pretty long. So I mean, we got there's a lot of stories within this one story, so it
Right.
should be good.
Now I've heard this story before, and I'm sure now that uh, Caesar's got a chance to think about it, I'm sure a couple more details probably came into mind. But the first time I heard it was probably about 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. Uh, we
Something
were
like
going
that.
down to SC
Oh yeah,
driving. Remember, we were coming back from SC, and
that was 2017, I think. Yeah.
yeah, it's 2017, and he blew my mind, guys. So I mean, there's more than just one story, but uh, when you're feeding into the conspiracy and stuff, and you have somebody that has boots on the ground, and you actually hear from them what went on, it's kind of like the eye opener. But specifically for this show, we're gonna keep with the theme. The last show was paranormal stuff. We had a lot of ghost stories from Virginia and a couple personal accounts, but this show today, we want to get into Caesars and kind of get a glimpse of stuff that he experienced early on when he was in the military.
Cool things, man.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Sosa, when did you enlist into the military? What year was that?
Well, it was 96. I believe it was like actually 96
Was there
February.
February? Was there a specific reason why you enlisted?
I just wanted to get out. Basically, I had my things going on. Like I was gonna go initially. Like I think I told you before, I was gonna actually go to Brown to go to
Mm,
school, and but my grandma, who I was living with at the time, passed away, and then I just kind of lost interest in, you know, adolescence. You lose interest in things when someone that close to you goes away. So
right.
I ended up like thinking like, I should go join something, and then I saw a brochure for the Coast Guard, and I was like, I could go live by the beach. That sounds like fun. And those fools didn't come pick me up.
Yeah.
They didn't want to they wanted me to go to the recruiting office. I was like, what? So
Oh,
I ended up joining the Marines instead. So yeah, it's all
okay.
good.
So this was before 9/11, obviously, before we went
Yeah,
into Afghanistan,
well
right?
before.
Well before. So you're in there looking for adventure, something to shake it up, um, kind of like
Yeah,
see what happens type deal.
yeah, and then when you first join the Marines or the military or whatnot, you have your job that you are signed up to do, and then if you're in there and you show certain qualities and initiative, you could end up trying out for other jobs, and that's kind of what I did. This was, mind you, all before 9/11, so the world was a much
Right.
different place back then. So,
So what was your first job you signed up to do? What was like the first
Jesus,
one that you had? Do you remember?
I don't even remember anymore, man. Tell you the truth, I want to say it was some sort of engineer, something. I forget what it was. I think it was like the guys that, uh, those guys that I don't know if you've seen in the movies where they're fueling planes from the sky.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I guess there's a job just for that, and that's initially what I signed up to do, but never got that far. I ended up falling in love with I guess the grunt part of it, and I
Mhm.
switched and started, you know, my GI Joe fucking aspirations, man.
Nice, nice. So, let me ask, before we get into the story itself, what was the highest rank that you got to before you were done with the Marines?
And I was a sergeant, you
Mm.
know, but when you leave, they promote you. So I
Oh,
left as a staff sergeant. So
staff sergeant.
yeah, so if you want to go to the grades, I would want to say it's like E6 is what I ended up leaving as.
E6.
Yeah,
That sounds pretty like you
it's
put some
not.
time in.
Hold on, let me see. Yeah, E6. Yeah, so I mean, it just depends. It's that all that stuff is just kind of whatever. Like it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter until you get higher up. And
Right.
then the thing with that too was, mind you, pre 9/11, we
Hmm.
weren't getting paid very much. So it was,
Right.
it wasn't like you were getting an enormous pay grade, like pay raise, when you got.
Right.
So it only really matters when you retire and then, your pension. That's why they kind of do that. They promote you to another
Oh,
rank
okay.
as you leave, and then that gives your pension to be a little,
Help you out a little bit.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay. I get it. So, 1996, you enlisted.
yeah. And
Um,
then
y-
did a couple things, and then I think this story that I'm about to tell was probably around 98.
okay, so
Uh,
98's here. So set us up for us. Where are we going? What are we doing?
so my job was a little sticky. It was like they would send us out to check things out. Before things got popping in the said
Hmm.
areas, and but every once in a while we'd luck out and we end up doing something that we thought was fun, or at least not as dangerous as other stuff.
Right.
And then uh, this particular time it's when you go work with different agencies, like either rather it be like you go work with the army or navy, or you go work with another country's military or whatnot. In this case, we were working with, I want to say it was the DEA, the marshals. Who else was out there? Oh, ATF. And then the border patrol was there just because we were in their jurisdiction, so to speak. And all we were doing was we are trying to track down certain paths that traffickers were using, and you know, basically just gathering intelligence and people.
So this is Mexico, correct?
Yeah, so we were actually based. We were like in the hills between
Hmm.
Texas and Mexico.
Oh,
I,
okay.
I got, we would
Hmm.
go into Mexico, but it was like one of those things that was unsaid.
So
And
like that's the spot where you're going to get a lot of people coming across, right?
yeah, and that
Okay.
river is right there
Hmm.
too. That
Hmm.
there's a river that I forget, the Rio Grande River,
Yeah.
and then there's a couple other little baby rivers that go up and through there. But it's where we were at. It wasn't like, I wouldn't call it inhabitable, but it was like, I don't know why people would live up there. You know,
Oh,
it
yeah.
was it was a mountainous, very like rocky terrain and almost desert like. No,
Right.
and it was just ugly. It was just ugly. Like, yeah, it looked like where that when that William Shatner Planet of the Apes movie, when he got out and it was just a desolate
Yeah.
area with rocks. That's what it looked
Hmm.
like.
Oh, okay. So you guys are down there. You guys have border patrol with you guys,
Well, they weren't
and
with us. They were just there. It
oh, they were
was,
there.
yeah. Don't
Okay.
give them too much credit. They were like
No,
the.
no, never. So specifically, what was your goal? Like, what was your mission while were
Well,
you there?
and not to get too much into it, they basically said, "Hey, here's this information we got. Here's these
Mhm.
pictures of these people. Can you guys go find out if it's true?" Basically, and
Basic stuff.
yeah, then we would go into Mexico and then come back out in the morning, and depending on what it was, you know what I mean. So
So
it was,
recon, you're gonna doing recon on these
yeah,
specific
sort
individuals.
of things, yeah. So,
Okay.
um, but like I said, the area, because when you're doing this kind of thing, it's there's a lot of agencies involved, a lot of people involved, and so it's a whole. I mean, it's a whole. What do you call it? Brain trust that's happening. There's a lot of a lot of things involved, a lot of moving parts.
Hmm.
So like the whole time, the eye in the sky is up there, like a variation of it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
The
Yeah.
early, what is it? The airborne early defense system thing, where it's like there's a plane with a radar, and he's shooting down information from high altitude, and they're kind of following us around. That kind of deal. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of things going on at the same time. So um, yeah, so but to us it was still fun because it was like we're not gonna get killed, and we're doing something new, and it's stories to tell later on. So
Yeah.
it was a good time.
All right. All right. So you're down there. Your guys are in and out of Mexico doing whatever you have to do. Um, what was something that you felt kind of changed that mission from where it was going? Because I'm sure when you're down there, you guys are setting up. It's pretty normal. It's day to day. You're doing what you got to do. What did you notice down there, or what happened that made you um, come up or have this encounter or this experience that you had?
No, it wasn't something that happened. Well, when we got to where our base camp was at, if you want to call it that,
Mhm,
it was right up on the border. Like you could, we could see
mhm,
Mexico from where we were at. Like, and on the Mexico side, there was a lot of well, on both sides, but there was a lot of hills and stuff.
mhm,
And it just so happened that there was like a mountain, if on that side. And one of the first nights we were there, we noticed that there was like lights, like camp, like you could tell someone was up there like camping. We thought,
mhm. Uh-huh.
and we're like, what the hell is that? Like, so the next morning when we asked one of the locals that was on our side, and we were like, hey, what the hell's going on over there? And it was a Mexican official, and he was just like, don't look that way, don't, you know you don't want to mess with that stuff. And we're like, well, what is it? Like, we're supposed to know everything that's out here. And then
Right.
the guy was like real hesitant to tell us, and he was like, I'll tell you guys later, I'll tell you later, I don't want to, you know I don't want anyone else to really hear what I'm going to say to you or whatever. And I was just kind
Wow.
of like, all right. So then later on, when he actually did tell me, and he told me and a couple other guys, he was like, uh, he's like, I don't know if it's true. He's like, but I grew up believing, and I grew up knowing this was true. He's like, so take it for what you want. He's like, but up there and what you're seeing is brujas, and what brujas was like witches, right? So it was
So
like,
Brujas
right when he
are
said that, I was like, what the hell? And then, he started explaining a little more, but a couple of the guys that was with us didn't speak Spanish, and they asked like, what's he talking about, man? And I was like, I don't know if I want to tell you. Like, I really don't know. Because, me being who I am and the way I grew up, you
mhm.
kind of grow up respecting that kind of stuff. You understand that you don't mess with tarot cards, you don't mess with the Ouija board, you don't mess with spirits, you don't mess with
Right.
witchcraft,
Right.
because it's always going to come back to you one way or the
Mhm.
other, and it's never a good thing.
Right.
So you grow up with that fear of all that because it's genuine,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
so I was like, I don't know if I want to tell you. And he's like, no, well, just tell me. He's like, well, he's saying they're witches. He's like, witches. The guys were like, witches. What do you mean witches? I was like, witches, like witches,
Yeah.
like straight up witches. And then so he went into detail telling us what it was, and from what he understood was that uh, it was a village of witches, and
Oh wow.
there was no men up there. And what he was saying is like, and when he explained it, and I'll explain to you because this is the way I pictured it back then. And it just so happened later on in life, I saw this movie, and I was like, oh, that must have been what he was talking about.
Mhm.
What he was saying is that there's nothing but women, and the way that they become more like that, more women join this convent,
Mhm.
is that they use their fire, that they enter the fire, and then they come out somewhere else, and they basically kidnap kids and
What?
bring them back. And if they end up kidnapping a boy kid, they do something to make him lose his mind and do stuff for the covenant. And if they bring back a girl, they just raise her to be another witch. So the way he described that, how they did this, it reminded me a lot when I saw it when I saw that movie Monsters Inc. Remember they were using those closet
The,
doors
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that would open the closet door and end up
Mhm.
in the human world or whatever.
Right.
That's what I pictured, is that they stepped into the fire and they ended up somewhere else, and they brought back a kid.
Okay, so you're looking up at this hill, you're seeing a bunch of fires up there, like you said, like camping, right?
Yeah,
The people are camping up there. So he was saying that they use that fire to
among other
do
things. But yeah,
right. Okay.
that's how they would repopulate and stuff.
And did you see a bunch of them on a hillside? And it
There was a couple times where there was about 5 or 7 fires going at once, and there was the first time we saw it was just one big like
Mhm,
obnoxious fire. But the crazy thing was is after he told us this, and this is when some of the stuff started happening. Um, one of the, when he told us this that next night, we're in the military and
mhm,
there's agencies, we have tools, equipment, weapons, and
yeah.
back then we still had some really good scopes, and you would scope them
Mhm.
and you would see the fire, but you would not see anything else.
Wow.
No people, no animals, no, like you couldn't tell there was dwellings up there. All you saw was a fire.
Ever,
Yeah. So
anytime.
then if you didn't scope it and you looked up, you could see movement. And we're
Mm.
trained, man. We're trained guys. So it's like we're
Right.
not
You see.
stupid and we're not what do you call them? We're not amateurs.
Right.
So it was like we were confused as hell because we were like,
Right.
how is this possible? Like, and we would like there was one night we spent a few hours. There was like 4 or 5 of us that were like trying to scope them out to see if we could see them, and
Hmm.
we didn't see anything. So it was confusing to say the least. And then
Yeah, I bet.
so one of the things that, like I told you, like I grew up with this kind of stuff, so I knew you're not
Hmm.
supposed to mess with these people. And one of the times we went out during the day, there was a guy with us, and I believe he was from Ohio, or he might have been from Iowa. It's one of those
Hmm.
Midwest states, and he found uh, a snake, a rattlesnake, and he killed it and he skinned it, and because he wanted the snake skin, and then he did this
Right.
whole like treatment to the snake skin so he could keep it and turn it into some, I don't know what he was planning to do with it, but he had done that. Well, he did that independently with another guy, and then when a couple of like other guys, Hispanic dudes that saw him do that, they freaked the hell out because they were like, "Bro, you shouldn't have done that." They were like, "Why?" And he's like, "Because you remember that they were talking about those brujas, those witches, like there's stories that these witches are able to like morph into animals and things of that nature."
Hmm.
He's like, so they considered this area their own, and if that snake was one of them, you killed one of them, you killed one of their vessels. He's
Wow.
like, and even if you didn't,
Hmm.
you still killed part of their vessel because it's part of their area, this is part of their world.
Hmm.
And they were like, ah, yeah, you're tripping, and I when they told me this, I was just like, I kind of got creeped out because I heard similar things of that nature, that they could turn into dogs and coyotes and cats and stuff like that.
Yeah. Kind of
And
like a skinwalker type deal.
yeah, yeah. So I was just kind of like, man. And then uh, and if I remember correctly too, that same river is where La Llorona killed her kids. I don't know if you know that story. Like
Mm-mm.
there's a old Mexican legend of La Llorona, which was this lady that I forget exactly. Something went down with her and her husband. The husband left her or something. I can't remember exactly how it initiated.
Right.
But she had like 3 children, and she drowned them in the river.
Oh, okay.
And then the there's more to it, but the folklore is that she was too evil, obviously, to go to heaven, but she was too evil where the devil didn't want her either. So then she was destined to just roam around.
Okay.
And I guess they said too, like if you hear her scream, that you're next, because she spends her eternity, attached to this water. So anyway, so I had before all this went down, I had told that story. So all these guys from Ohio and Iowa, they thought we were just fucking with them the whole time,
Uh,
trying to scare them.
yeah.
So then when that went down, I was kind of creeped out a little bit, and I was just kind of like, whatever. Well, and then we used to sleep in these big tents. It was like 20, 30 people tent things, and there was
Hmm.
like 14 of us in there or something. And we when we woke up that next morning after the snake incident, one of the guys went out the front door and there was these two snake heads with their mouths open, just the heads
Mm,
hanging from the top of the tent on the doorway,
damn.
like perfect. So when you open it, they were right there. And one of the we got mad at that guy, the guy John, I think his name.
Mm,
We'll just call him Johnson. That we got mad at Johnson because we thought he was fucking around. We thought he had done that stuff, and he was like, "I didn't do that, bro. Like, yeah, I didn't do that." He's like, "There's no way I could have done that." He's like, "Those are rattlesnake heads." He's like, "That takes like a real professional dude to set them up in that way because the mouth was open." And
okay.
he's like, "Those snake heads still have venom in them." And he's like, "I'm not that stupid to try to mess with it because even if you just get the venom on your finger, it could like eat your finger or something." He was saying some stuff like that,
Mm,
but he kept saying like it takes someone with knowledge on how to do that stuff, whatever. And we're like, oh yeah, whatever. And we're arguing with him, like we're mad. We're legit think he did it, right? So this whole
mm,
time our attention is to him. Well, during this time, another guy goes out the back door. There's two heads back there,
damn.
and then on those two heads, there's bees,
Hey.
like in the mouth of the thing. And it wasn't like just one bee; it was like a bunch of bees that were on the mouth of this thing. And that the same guy that Johnson said, "Hey, that's not normal. Like bees aren't that kind of animal. Like they don't eat other animals. Like they're." So he's like, so
Yeah. Right. Right. Right.
that's bad one of two ways: bad because it's happening and it shouldn't, and something's going wrong,
Right.
or bad because they're after the venom. And if that venom gets into the bees and that bee stings you, it could possibly spread the venom from the rattlesnake onto you. So we're all like, what the
Ah.
hell's going on? So
Interesting.
as this whole conversation is going down, someone
Hmm.
opens up the front door where those two other heads were at, and there's
Hmm.
bees on those now.
What
And
the
then, and
heck?
like I said, it wasn't just one or two bees; it was like a bunch of bees.
Hmm.
So we all creeped the hell out, and we're just like, we need to do something with those bees. And the guy was like, you need to burn them, like you have to take them down and burn them. And we're like, and then I started thinking, like, dude, this is because you killed that one snake. This is because you killed that snake. This is the only reason this is happening, right? So
Uh,
that was the first, I guess, if you want to say, creep thing that happened when we were out there.
yes. So, damn. Snakeheads were set up overnight. It had a. It must have been during the night, right? When you
Yeah,
guys are asleep,
it had to have
which
been.
you have a bunch of you guys there. There's no way someone snuck on without you guys knowing because I'm sure there's patrols out.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We
You
have
know,
firewatch guys. We have guys on guard 24/7. So how do you enter a perimeter, armed perimeter,
on perimeter. Yeah.
and not and do this? So that was the other problem with this thing. So then, right after that, the weather completely went weird. So it was summertime,
Hmm.
and at night the temperature was dropping down to like 29, 28 degrees.
Damn.
It was like one of the weirdest things that like we couldn't explain it. Like it was just odd. And then guys started getting sick, like getting like pneumonia type ailments.
Right. Yeah. Because of the weather change. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what we thought. Yeah. So then we still had to do our thing. We're still doing whatever we're doing out there,
Hmm.
and we're still doing it. Well, like I said, there's a lot of agencies working. There's a lot of tools, a lot of equipment that's out there, and we're tracked, so other people are tracked, right?
Right.
So so if we had sensors and stuff, we had like a lot of things going on. And I remember one time uh there was a guy on a black, like a horse. Like we saw like they're on the radios, they're like, hey, there's this dude on a horse. They're like, hey, we'll chase him down, because he's probably trying to see what's going on. Probably a cartel guy or something, a cartel
Yeah.
spy or whatever you want to call him out. And so all the radios were going off. Like they were chasing him here. He's going east. We're over here, and he's watched. Like you could see it on the tracking systems. You could see it. You could see the people engaged. You could see the people
Hmm.
behind him. And dude disappears. Like dude just disappears. Like he disappears from visual, and he disappears from the tracking system.
Just out of thin air. He's just gone.
Yeah.
Like,
And so then one of the higher ups was like, you know what? But these cartel guys are really smart. He's like, there might be a tunnel, and he ended up going underground under the river. And,
Hmm.
if that happened, that's possible for the signal to get lost that way. So we're just kind of like, about he's like, Chief, dude, it was a man on a horse. How does he end up at underground? Like, so, like, what? Like, so
Instantaneously,
yeah.
like it's gone.
And then right after like that, like after that went down and everyone was coming back, all the sensors went off. It wasn't
Damn.
like it was being, like a sensor will go off as you're being tracked.
Mhm.
All of them went off simultaneously. So either we got surrounded instantaneously from all angles, or there was malfunction for however many seconds that they all went off.
Right.
But you know, it was just that was the other thing I forgot about that all the sensors had gone off. It was just like it's not cool,
Yeah.
man.
Wow. Damn.
So then, further along,
So yeah. So man. So give us a rough estimate about. Was this in a period of days that happened, or is this
days,
was weeks?
days,
Okay, so it's days. So it's one.
days. It
So
was like one
minutes.
after another, one after another.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
Damn.
it was days. It was um like within 4 or 5 days, all this shit was going down. And then like let's see which one happened first. So whenever we'd come back, we talk about what was going on, and like that stuff
Mhm.
was weird. That stuff was weird. So then one of the times when we went out, mind you, we were going down these established trails,
Right.
and some of them were roads, like established roads that over the years or whatever they're there, and some of them we created for ourselves, because we did have cars, we had trucks and shit that we were moving around in,
Hmm.
and sometimes, and then anyway, so one of the times we were on these roads, there was a fence because you're out there in the middle of nowhere in these hills and stuff. And I would assume on both sides, but at least on the American side, that in some parts that is actually someone's property, or at least was somebody's property at some point in time. You know, so then you'll
Yeah.
see remnants of like, you know, a fence or what used to be maybe some sort of ranch or some shit. Like
Uh huh.
wood posts and wood, barriers or whatever. Like
So that's why it's fenced off, right? It's somebody's
yeah,
property,
yeah, sometimes, or at some point it was somebody's or something was
or
going
they
on, but
because they don't really have like Mexican National Force stuff
yeah,
like that, right? Where
yeah.
they're gonna. Okay,
So
I
then it
got
was just, you would see it, and it's not unusual. You see it everywhere.
you. Okay.
And so one of the times when we were driving, we saw on one of these fences bones like tied to them, and it was like caught us off guard because we had been through that road the whole time we were there. All of a
Right.
sudden, these things show up,
Hmm.
and we're like, "Hey, we're gonna have to document this shit because who knows what it is? It might be a marker of some sort that these guys are using. Go down this trail, whatever." So we did. We documented it on, and at the time, mind you, it was late '90s, so it was like you had camcorders and things of that nature that we would use, and so we're scoping them out, and one of the guys was saying like, "Hey, these bones aren't right." We're like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, these bones." He's like, "First off, I don't know what it is." He's like, "It's either a dog, a coyote. It doesn't look like a rabbit. It's just too big." He's like, "But I can't tell what it is." He's like, "I can't for sure tell you that that's a dog because
Uh.
the bones are too skinny. Like it just doesn't look right."
Mhm.
And he was like, "But it's." He's like, "I don't know what it is." And so he's like, "But the thing that's wrong," he's like, uh, "either these bones, someone was carrying them around for a couple days,
Mhm.
or we missed them." And he's like, "But I know we didn't miss them. So then, why would someone carry around these bones for a couple days?" And we're like, "Why are you saying it's a couple days?" He's like, "Because of how it's decaying." He's like, "There's still flesh on this, and you know, you could see it. It's still somewhat fresh." And we're
Damn.
like, "Okay." And he's like, "Well, that's the problem." He's like, "It's not smelling. It should smell. It's not smelling." And he's like, "And there's no flies." He's like, "So either someone sprayed something on this thing, or there's something not just right with these things."
Mhm.
So we're just kind of like thrown off by his conversation because it's just like, why you know so much about fucking decaying bones and stuff.
Yeah. How does he know? Like what?
So we're just kind of like, all right. So anyway, you recorded it, whatever, and we followed the trail down because we thought it was just a marker, right?
Okay.
So, and the bones were in a weird like they were tied to the fence with like wire, and then they were like an L shape, one L shape and one the opposite L, so that it looked
Mhm.
like the JBL sign or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so we were just kind of like, whatever. So when we went down the trail, we ended up by the river, and on the river bank,
Hmm.
we found more bones. But these ones were in the shape of like a straight up cross,
Hmm.
and the in the cross, and it was the same kind of weird bone. Couldn't tell what it was, if it was a dog, a cat, I don't know. But in the middle of it, there was like organs.
Ooh.
Yeah, like it looked like kidney flesh. I don't know if you ever seen
Aye.
beef kidney. And same thing,
Mm,
it didn't smell. There was no flies, and it was just there. We're just like, we would have seen this shit. And then one of the guys was like, "Hey, man, like, I don't mean to creep you guys out." He's like, "Cause this is weird as it is." He's like, "But I don't know if you guys noticed on the mud, because it was on the bank, so it's kind of like muddy
mm,
sand or whatever." He's like, "I don't know if you notice, it's all smooth." And we're like, "What about it?" He's like, "Yeah, if someone placed these here, you would at least see handprints or a footprint, or it's smooth.
true.
He- and
True.
if you, and he's like, and if they would have smoothed it out, you would see like a rake mark or something. He's like, it doesn't look like that. It just looks smooth. So we're just kind of like, hey, you know what? You're fucking right. Like this is,
It's kind of like they appeared there or something.
yeah. So we were just like, you know what? Just record it. Let's get the hell out of here, because I don't want to be messing
Oh,
around.
so you guys had a video camera. You
Yeah,
guys were
yeah,
recording
yeah,
these
yeah.
things because they weren't there before
Yeah,
any time.
and we needed
Okay.
to show, because like some of the other agencies might be like, oh yeah, this is because of this, or this, certain groups use this or whatever. So
Oh,
you
okay.
document that kind of stuff. So when we got back to the base, we told our superiors and stuff. We're like, hey, this and this happened, and we saw these bones and whatnot. And they're like, where at? And he's like, well, we were there. We told them, whatever. And you used to laser them too. Like that's the other thing. Like you would laser things to get the actual coordinates. So that,
Le-
yeah,
really? Like, so you guys had a.
like a little laser, like it was
Um,
almost like a little, at the time it was kind of like a bazooka looking thing,
uh,
but you would laser it and it would give you like pinpoint coordinates, like,
mm.
so then later on,
So
like,
you had this bazooka laser,
yeah,
and you guys had
it-
this big ass VHS fucking
yeah,
recorder too.
yeah.
Huh?
The 90s, man, you gotta love it.
Yeah.
So then when we got back, they're like, all right, well, they called the other agency. They're like, hey, well, let's see what's going on. So we played the video, and you could hear us talking, and you could hear us discussing the stuff or whatever.
Mhm.
And you see the camera footage zoom in and zoom out. No fucking bones on the fence.
Nothing.
There was nothing there. So then we were
What?
just like, what the hell? So then we were like, they were looking at us like we were lying, and all of us were like, no, they were there. That's why he's zooming. The dude is even pointing on the camera, like where he's describing what he's seen, and you
What?
see him pointing, and he's pointing at nothing. It's just the fence. So then, like,
So on the camera, you filmed this guy's talking, pointing these bones out. Like, look, they're situated like this.
the guy with the camera
Nothing. There's
zooming in
nothing
and
there.
out, and there's nothing there. So then,
So.
like, so then when we go into the bank area,
Mhm.
the same shit. There's nothing on the video. There's like no bones. There's nothing. And here's the wild part. Remember when we were talking about the footprints and all that?
Yeah.
So when we're talking about the footprints and all that, when
Mhm.
you see the recording where it should have been the bones, there
Mhm.
was no bones. There was nothing. But there was footprints, and there was boot prints.
What? So your guys' boot prints were there, or
We didn't
somebody
step in it.
else's?
We didn't step in it. So, but it looked like our boot prints, and then it looked like
What?
footprints, like bare feet,
Oh, what the
and
hell?
it looked like little kid feet footprints.
See, I didn't know about the riverbank stuff. I heard of
Yeah,
the other stuff, but that's like that's bizarre. Like
and
what?
that creeped us out more, because it was like, it was our, like, you could tell, like, you're trained, so you're like, those are government issue boots. Those are
Mhm.
government issue boot prints. We
Right.
didn't step in the shit. So, like, they creeped you out, because it's like either something is getting your boots and doing this,
Mhm.
or it's some sort of power that knows who you are and is making you, you know what I mean? So that one creeped
Yeah.
everybody the hell out. Like that was so bad. That was so bad. Like that
So
was
how do you explain? You know, you give it to your sergeant or whatever, and they look it over, and they see nothing there. I mean, how are you guys explaining? Like, swear there's bones there. We all saw it.
no,
Like,
yeah, we're
how did that go down?
just like that, just like that. Like like we got individually interviewed, we got individually interrogated because
Da-
you don't fuck around like that. So it
Mm-mm.
was like it's a waste of time. It's a waste of resources if we're messing around. You know, you could get in trouble. You
Right.
could go to jail for that shit. So we had to get all that went down, all that debriefing shit, and all that stuff had to
Mhm.
go down because it looked fake as fuck. You know,
Yeah. Right.
and then right after too, like that's when we started seeing things. Like I remember I was driving and we had like SUV. I think it was a Durango SUV thing back from back in the day,
Hmm.
and we were going through the trail, and then all of a sudden I swear I saw something. I stopped, and the road was real dusty because it wasn't there was no rain up there or nothing. So it was real dusty. So you know how when you stop real sudden on dirt, it kind of lifts up a little bit, and you have to wait to be able to see what's going on. And I was like, "Did you see that?" I told the dude that was with me. I was like, "Did you see that?" And he's like, "What?" And I was like, "I swear to God, bro." I was like, "I saw a spider the size, it was a spider, probably the size of that ball that kids jump like sit on and jump with." I was like, it was that big. It's right there. I was like, wait till the dirt moves. And he was like, "You're kid, there's no such thing. Like you're tripping, bro." Or like, no, no, I know what I saw. I know what I fucking saw. So
Damn.
when the dirt dust settled, there
Hmm.
was a rock, like a boulder
Oh.
where I saw it. But the
Hmm.
shitty part was that it was in the middle of the road, a road that we had been traveling this whole time. So that boulder wasn't there the day before, the night before, the days before that. It just was there, and
Mm.
it wasn't like it was just on top of the. It was embedded in the ground, like it had been there for years. So we're
Wow.
like, what the hell? So then other dudes, they also saw different things. Like they saw, I think one dude saw like two coyotes or something, or and ended up being like a bush. Another dude saw like uh, some face or something, and then it ended up being a boulder too. But they were always in the middle of the road. Like it wasn't like on the side of the road that some ambiguous thing. No, it was in the middle of the road that it couldn't have been there because we had been traveling through there this whole time. So
Damn.
then that was when everything was like, nah, man, we're something's going on here that we're not supposed to be messing with. Shouldn't have killed that fucking snake. We're
Started
going.
with the snake, the damn snake.
We started blaming him, and then the ultimate thing, I guess, is that towards the seventh or eighth day, one of the guys woke up, and he woke up like from a dream. Like he woke up like scared,
Hmm.
and he was like, "What the fuck?" Like real aggressive, like just like, "What the fuck was that about?" Like
Hmm.
what the hell's wrong with you? He's like, "Ah, man." He's like, "I had a fucked up dream," and I was like, "What happened?" And then he started telling us the dream,
Hmm.
and he's describing that he's walking on the aqueduct, like an aqueduct kind of looking thing. He's like,
Hmm.
it's like cement canal. He's like, there's like a trail on either side with rocks, and the aqueduct, California
Yeah.
aqueduct.
Yep.
And he's describing this, and I was just like listening to him, and I was just like, and he's telling us that it was him and his brother walking, and you know, and then I was like, "Hey, did you find a hole?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "It was like a little, like kind of like a gopher looking hole or something like a."
Hmm.
And he's like, "Yeah." And then I was like, "With like ants coming out of it?" And he's like, "What the fuck?" Like, "Yeah." And then another guy was like, dark ants, like almost black ants, right? They're like this big. And he was like, "Yeah, what the fuck's going on? Like, how did you guys?" And then he's like, and then all these fucking little tan snakes came out. And he's like, "Yeah," and they fucking jumped on your neck. He's like, "Yeah." I think it was six of us that had the exact same dream,
Damn.
and
What the hell?
the dream, the only difference was it was like with in my dream it was me and my brother, and that dude's dream it was him and his brother. Another dude it was him and his sister. So it was always two people,
Hmm.
and that just the relative changed. But that one
Wow.
was I was done after that. Like I was like, nah, man. Like we need to do something. Like we need to like I don't know. We got to go find a priest or something.
Yep.
But between the
Yeah.
whole trying to scope him out, we didn't see him, and then all that shit going down, it was just like not cool, man. Not cool.
Man.
And I'm sure I'm
That
leaving some details
nuts.
out, but like that's just. gist of that story, man. Like it's just there's powers out there that you don't want to mess with. That they don't care who you are. You know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why they're there. Those stories are there. A lot of them to protect us. And then people throw caution to the wind and mess around and try to act like that stuff's fake, and then stuff like this happens. You're like, oh crap. You know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
You see, but you're like you're a Marine. You're no nonsense, no bullshit guy, and you're telling us these experiences that you had that you can't explain. You're a pretty logical person. Come out to well, it was actually this, it was actually that. But when you're coming at me with a story that you can't explain and it freaks you the hell out, then it's kind of like, okay, you got to kind of take that for its value and its truth, because like me, I'll tell you a story all day long. Like, is it true? I don't know. I heard it, or I experienced it. But there's certain people that you come across, because when I talk aliens and UFOs with you, you're like, you like that shit? Get out of here with that. You know. And then, but when it comes to this stuff and your own personal story, I can't. Well, how am I going to refute that? Like, and that shit sounds nuts as hell. Like what you just said, that whole story, all those stories in those
yeah,
8
from the
days that you
beginning,
had
man.
from the beginning sounds
Yeah, because I'm telling you,
cuckoo.
like, and as you get older and stuff, you hear other stories and it meshes. Like I've heard
Hmm.
like other stories where like witch covenants,
Hmm.
do that. They stay to females, and if there is a male, they basically like brainwash them or whatever it is called that, where they zombie them up to do their bidding, and then that's it. They get rid of them. They don't.
Yeah.
They're not part of the covenant. So it was just like when the
Yeah.
guy told me all that stuff, and then I look back on it now, I'm just like, fuck. That I'm telling you, the probably the scariest thing was when we couldn't scope them out, when we were
Yeah.
looking through the scopes and we could not see them, and
Well, you could see the shadow, right? You can see
we could, well,
shadows.
because you see movement, like it's dead up
Right.
movement, like you're trained, you see these things, and you're like, all right, there's
Yeah.
movement there. Usually, you go through your scope, you're like, confirm, but during this time, nothing, just the
Nothing.
fire.
Damn.
So it was just like, I don't know, man, like that in itself creeps me out just thinking back on it. But like the other stuff is just the ones that creep me out the most of that whole memory is that trying to find them through the scopes, and then the snake heads,
Yeah.
because there's no
That's.
possible way that happened. And then when you think about it even more, it's a desolate place.
uh,
There's no plants that or flowers that need pollination. So where did the fucking bees come from?
there's, there's that part too.
Yeah, so it's just like if there's something so
That's
powerful that's
crazy.
controlling, nature in that sense,
Yeah.
like, yeah, it kind of it hits you differently, And like I said,
I
I
feel you.
I grew up with this kind of stuff and this kind of folklore, so
Hmm.
it it still follows me to this day when people bring up stuff and I tell them like, hey man, you don't want to mess with that. Like that's the last thing you want to do. Like that's
Yeah.
you don't know what doors you're opening with that, you know.
Absolutely. My mama told me that long time ago when I was little. Don't mess with this. Don't do that. Don't be around when they're doing this or saying that. She's like, they're gonna tell you it's fake, but it's not. And that's what I try to tell people too. And you experienced it firsthand. Like those brujas down there, you don't mess with them.
Yeah, and it's like, who knows? Like, what if it was us, when we first got there, joking around about that's the river that the Llorona lived at.
Hmm.
What if that woke up something?
Right.
You never know. That's why I'm
Hmm.
saying like not
Taunting it. You're taunting it.
since then I kind of am mindful of what I talk about, what I don't talk about, and where I'm at when I'm talking about it.
Words are powerful, my friend. Words are powerful. Right.
So yeah,
Yeah, and being with the witches and stuff like that, you hear, especially like with Skinwalker at Skinwalker Ranch and the Native Americans and stuff and their shamans and stuff like that, being able to transform into like wolves, or that's where the whole Skinwalker folklore comes from, and people have experienced what you experienced, with them as well. So,
yeah, and then that goes way back too, because
mhm,
I've read, in the classes and things I've studied like the Mayans and Aztecs and Olmecs had
Oh,
similar.
you went all the way back to the Olmecs. That's
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
That's before.
They talked about like there was spirits that were able to shift from
Mm,
panther to human and from human to bird, and,
right.
bird to snake or whatever.
Mhm.
So like if you go way back, then there's got to be truth within these stories at some point. You know?
Right. And now you look at Egyptian hieroglyphs. They got guys with birds' heads on them and jackal heads and all these weird things. Who knows? Well, we didn't live then. We don't know.
Yeah,
We didn't know what they were seeing, but there's some truth in these stories. That's why they're around still. So and but that experience you had, man, I learned some new stuff on this one,
yeah,
which I knew
yeah.
I was
Because
going to.
yeah, because I when I thought about it a little bit, I was like, hey, I don't think I've said that before. I don't think
Nope.
And there's still, I bet you, if I sat down and like really put myself there, more things would pop up, more memories and stuff,
Oh yeah,
like of things that happened. But
it usually does. I mean, that happened in 1998.
yeah, around
You know,
98, 99, around in that era.
yeah. I was just graduating high school at that time. You're already living your life in the military.
I was like 3.5 years in.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate your story, man, and I think everybody's gonna love this one. Um, it definitely freaks you out.
And it's funny
That's a
too,
good one.
like with all this stuff, eventually, like
Mhm.
when they declassify certain articles that happen,
Mhm.
this one should be declassified like a 3038 because it had to be documented because of all the stuff that happened.
Yeah, you're
So
right. It had to because, like you said, it would have been wasting time for you guys to make up all this
yeah,
stuff with
because
the cameras.
once it got into the interrogation and interviews, it was documented. So yeah, keep
Man,
everyone out there, keep your eyes open in 3038
keep your eyes open at 3038. Nice.
or
All right.
2038, 2038. My bad.
Which one? Oh, okay. 2038. That's a little bit better.
Yeah,
Yeah, because everything has a statute of limitations, right? So it's
yeah, it's closed off for
I
like
thought
40 years or something
is it
like
40
that.
years?
Something
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know. Yeah,
All right. Well,
might be more than that, but yeah.
we'll be looking for those documents.
Uh,
All right, man.
all
Well,
right, bro.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Everybody out there listening, make sure you like and subscribe. If you have any questions, you can hit me up at mikevizo@yahoo.com. Send me an email if you have any questions,
What
stuff
if
we
they
need
have
to
a
talk about.
story?
If you have a story, let me know. We'll get you on here and we'll chop it up for sure.
All right, man.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right, everybody.
All right, guys.